So, I occasionally text my sister. I'm in a really fortunate situation now where I'm just 15 minutes away from my sister, 10 minutes away from my brother, about 20 minutes from my mum. And I've got immediate family all very, very close to hand, which I haven't had for 20 years before that. I'll occasionally text my sister if I haven't seen her for a few weeks and say, hey, what's happening? What's new? And usually your reply will be, not much. Work, sleep, life. In other words, nothing's new. But it occurs to me that we often sort of do that every time we switch on the news. What's happening out there? And I've heard it argued by a lot of people that harks back to our caveman ancestors who were always on the lookout for the next saber-toothed tiger that was ready to take them down. So they had to be constantly vigilant, always, nerves jangling. What's new? What's going on? What's happening out there? And so we switch on the news, listen to the news at 7 o'clock in the morning, use it to wake us up, listen to it at 6 o'clock, and then again at 10 o'clock, even though nothing's changed between 6 o'clock and 10 o'clock, but we still listen to the news. And there's a better question than asking what's new. And it's who's new and what's old. Because really, the news is nothing more than old things and old events happening to new people. I sort of liken it to a Shakespeare play performance. The actors have changed. The faces have changed. The scenery, the backdrop, the stage, the theater have changed. But the play? It's the same play. The same story. It's the same message. That's partly why we love it. And it's also because it tells us, the core thing in a Shakespeare play actually is extremely poignant. It's profound. It's telling us something about ourselves, about who we are, the way we think, the way we operate, subconsciously most of the time, that not many people down through the years have been able to do. Shakespeare was a real master at that. So, the news is nothing more than old things happening to new people. So really a better question is to ask, what's old? And that isn't so straightforward. To learn the answer to that question, you have to go back a long way, usually, because we're not very good at identifying that. And very few people down through the years, Shakespeare was one, have been able to figure that out and tell us. And usually they do it in the form of, stories a lot of the time. The ancient Greek mythology was brilliant for that. Sometimes they're true to life stories. And occasionally people like King Solomon, he was my favorite. Didn't tell some, I was going to say he didn't tell any stories. Actually, he did. You read the book of Ecclesiastes. It's all a collection of stories, autobiographical stories mostly, that he tells about himself. But his Proverbs is a collection of riddles. So you want to learn what's old? Study King Solomon. Study Plato, Aristotle, Moses, King David, King Solomon, my favorite. Sun Tzu's The Art of War. I was at a meetup a few weeks ago on cybersecurity. And the chap stood up and said, you want to figure out the best way to defend your company, your network, your system against hostile hacks. Study the art of war. Because, if you master that, if you capture that, you've captured the essence of cybersecurity. What you got to do, pretty cool. Study the ancient Hebrew prophets, Homer, the Odyssey. And I mean, most of these I'm I haven't even looked at yet. I've only scratched the surface of Plato. I'm trying to get into Plato's Republic. It's not easy going, and I've heard that Homer's The Iliad is death warmed over initially. It's a real struggle. I tend to gravitate towards anything that's in the Old Testament just because that's what I know. I've been reading that for 40 years now, particularly King Solomon. For whatever reason, I gravitate towards his thinking, towards his mind. But study the stories and study the riddles. And in there you'll find the same themes of human existence running like long continuous threads through them. Lust for power, longing for freedom. And then once they got the freedom, a terror of freedom and a desperation to get rid of the freedom, because with freedom comes responsibility. No, make me secure. I don't want this freedom. Just tie me down. So make me so secure that I can't budge. And then once I'm so secure that I can't budge, I'm desperate for freedom again. Fear, suspicion, disgust. You see that when you do check out the news, particularly the political news. You'll see that theme of disgust running through there all the time. Wickedness. You read Solomon's Proverbs, it's really fascinating. There was a few classes of people that he had absolutely no use for whatsoever. And he called them by very simple names. The wicked. Fools. That was probably his main bee in his bonnet, were fools. And he said, the old expression, so-and-so doesn't tolerate fools gladly. Well, Solomon probably was the inspiration for that. He didn't tolerate fools gladly, but he still had to tolerate them because the fools are everywhere. Can't avoid them. They're like cockroaches and spiders in the house. As soon as you get rid of one, there's two more suddenly show up out of left field that you're not expecting. Foolishness, laziness. That was another one he didn't like. Sluggards. Imposter syndrome. Ooh, heavy. Deal with that. And then discovery, the same themes run through all this literature. Discovery. Light bulb moments. Love, joy, peace, focus on one particular thing and actually getting successful. It's all there. Everything's there. So if you study those ancient bodies of literature, those ancient sages, you will find everything you need to answer the question, what's old? And once you've answered the question, what's old, you don't need to listen to the news very much. Once a week, maybe. Find out what's happened in the last week and go, yeah, okay. Oh, okay. It's just the same old things happening to different faces and different voices. Study the ancients. Kirk out.